Hey, I'm John Gordon. I'm here with Positive University, and my guest today is Inky Johnson. Inky, you are one of my favorite speakers on the planet. We've shared the stage a few times. I know your story, but a lot of people may not know your story. Take us back to where you grew up and
So first and foremost, man, it's an honor to be on. You're one of my favorite people in the world. But I grew up inner city Atlanta, to a mother at 16 years old, two-bedroom home, 14 people on the east side of Atlanta in this neighborhood by the name of Kirkwood. And it's drug-infested, violence, crime, you name it, we had it. And as a kid, I had this dream to make it to the NFL. That was the only thing I wanted to do because I felt as if I could accomplish that, I could help my family.
And so when did you start playing football? At what age?
I started at 7 years old at this league called Fitzgerald Field, and I had some great coaches, that helped me out, man, and geared me in the right direction. That pretty much shifted the trajectory of my life, and things started to go really well. God had blessed me with some ability. I could play, multiple positions, and people saw very early that I had a chance at, making it to the collegiate level and probably beyond that. And so I got blessed with a scholarship to the University of Tennessee, and things started going really well. And I came into my junior year and I was being viewed as an NFL prospect. And so things were looking up for me in my second game. I went out, I made a tackle against Air Force, fourth quarter, 2 minutes left in the game, and it changed my life forever.
Tell us about that day and tell us what happened.
And so what happened was I went to make a tackle on a guy, and as soon as I hit him, immediate contact, it seemed as if every breath in my body left. My body went completely limp. I fell to the ground. I blacked out. Had never happened to me before. They rushed me over to the emergency room. They went back and they looked at some tests on a computer, and the doctor basically came into the room and said, "We got to rush this kid back to emergency surgery. He's about to die." And I'm looking at him like, man, what happened? That was quick, and he said, "You ruptured a subclavian artery in your chest. You're bleeding internally. Got to rush you back, take the main vein out of your left leg, plug it into your chest, or you won't be here in the morning." And when they were doing that surgery, they noticed that I had nerve damage. I had torn all the nerves in my brachial plexus, which are the nerve roots that come from my spine and they control shoulder, arm, and hand. And I had paralyzed my right arm and hand. And so I woke up the next day and my career was over. But not only was my career over, my life had changed.
So you went from this injury, right, that shattered your dream to thinking, how am I even going to live? Like it was threatening your life. And so you come out alive. Take us back, though, to the dream of making it to the NFL. Why was that such an important dream for you in the first place? What did that dream signify? What did that mean for you and your family?
At the time, man, it was everything, because I was coming up in this environment to where, as a kid, I missed meals as a kid. As a kid, we went through several struggles with my mother and with my family. And so I just felt as if I could make it, my mom was working a double shift at Wendy's. I could take her off the double shift at Wendy's. Me and my cousins, we'll never have to miss a meal again. I could put my family in a better environment. They won't have to be around drugs, gangs, violence. And so for me, it was vital. It was almost like a lifeline. And so when the injury happened, a lot of people say, man, football got taken away from you. But I viewed it as a way. I was so disappointed, because I felt as if I couldn't accomplish the dream, not only for myself, I couldn't accomplish the dream for those that helped me get to that point.
So when that injury happened and you knew your dream of playing in the NFL was over, what did that feel like? What did those few days feel like? What did those few weeks feel like?
It was surreal. I felt as if it was a bad dream. I remember telling people they would come into my room at the hospital and just check on me. And I remember every day, for about 2 or 3 days, I would go to sleep like early. I would go to sleep around 5:30, 6 o'clock every day because I was feeling as if, man, when I wake up tomorrow, my arm will be working. I'll have feeling back in my arm. I'll be able to go back, go to rehab, start working, getting back into football, getting back into the swing of things. And every day I would wake up, I would touch my arm. That was the first thing I would do. Every day I would wake up, whether I was lying in my bed or whatever the case would be, I would touch my arm to see if I could feel it. And every single day I couldn't feel it. And so I was like, man, maybe this is a reality. Like maybe I'm going down this road that I've never been down before, and I just have to adjust to my new normal.
How long was that until you realized, okay, it's not coming back, you're not going to use the arm again?
I would say that December. And so I got injured September 9th. And so I went through different testing. I went from Tennessee to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, visited doctors. They gave me their opinions. And, when something happens that changes your life, you look at it, but you still have a certain level of hope that you'll be able to get back to doing what you were doing, because I had done it my whole life. I had done it from 7 to 20 years old. And I had never imagined that I would encounter something and in the blink of an eye and in one moment that would be taken away from me. And so every visit I went on, I would come out of the office, and I'll never forget, I was with my father one day, and we were in Rochester, Minnesota. And he looked at me and he said to me, man, you're going about this situation as if you know something that everybody else doesn't, because everybody else was down, their spirit was low. And every time I would come out of the office, I would be like, oh, it's all good, man. Maybe I'll get back. And I was still stepping and walking and acting as if I'll be back playing football. But that December, when 4 doctors came into the room at the Mayo Clinic, that's when reality really set in. When I had to get my major surgery, and they told me that, it's over, man. Like, you'll probably never be able to use this arm again.
At that time, what did you think your future held? What did you think you were going to do going forward?
The only thing I knew was I wasn't going to give up. I didn't know what was next. I didn't know what I would try to pursue. And the only thing I knew was every single day, I'll never forget, I told myself, Ink, you just got to win every day. You just got to control the controllables. I said, what happened to you was something that you couldn't control. I couldn't control my injury. I couldn't control I had a paralyzed right arm and hand. I couldn't control I ruptured my artery. But I said, the thing you can do every single day, you can control the controllables. First and foremost, you can control your attitude. You can control your perspective. You can control your work ethic, your dedication, your commitment. And so in everything you do and everything they put before you, just try to win the day, but most importantly, control the controllables. And so the most important thing to me at that time was my attitude and my perspective. And every single day I started it out with control the controllables, make sure you started out with the right attitude, but most importantly, look at things with the right perspective and just take a step forward every single day.
Were you more positive at that time than the people around you, or were there others that were more positive than you and were lifting you up?
Man, I would have to say my roommates at the time, they probably were the only people in that circle that were more positive than me. But my parents, they were shattered. My family, they were shattered. My friends, they were shattered. Except my 4 friends that were my roommates in college, and all those guys ended up going to the NFL, which was Gerard Mayo. He went first round to the Patriots, played linebacker. You had Robert Ayers, he went first round to the Denver Broncos. You got Ramon Foster, he's still playing with the Steelers and starting. And you had Sinclair Cannon. And every single day, those guys pretty much helped me get back on my feet. My father and my mother, they had spurts to where they would be positive in and out. But my 4 friends that were in the house with me every single day, they were positive. But everybody else, they were shattered. They were hurt because everybody was banking on me making it to this thing called the NFL.
As I was getting ready for our interview, I was thinking about the moment you decided to be a speaker. I don't even know when that is. I don't know that part of the story. When did you actually decide, all right, I'm going to speak for a living. I'm going to go do this. How did this happen?
It happened through service. When I played football at Tennessee, I was always that guy that loved Habitat for Humanity. I was always that guy that loved to go out, go by a school, interact with kids, go to the hospital. I just love those type of things. And I think it was birthed from, my childhood. I experienced a lot of pain, in my childhood. And so I'm one of these guys, I like to see people feel good. I like to try to help people. I like to try to empower. And so when I played football, every opportunity I get to go out to help somebody, I was always the first guy like, man, sign me up. And so after football, I still was doing things like that. I would still go to the rec center, still visit kids. And from that, people would just ask me questions. It was very informal. And a gentleman, my very first engagement, a guy asked me to speak at a graduation, a high school graduation. And I remember telling the guy, I was like, man, I got to be honest with you. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never spoke a day in my life. And he was like, no, you'll be fine. You know, just share with them your story, what happened to you, and your perspective. And so I went in, and I wasn't expecting to get compensated. I was just going in. It was right up the street from me. And I went in and I shared, and the guy paid me. And I went home that night and I shared it with my wife, and I prayed, man. And I was like, Lord, I don't know if this is what you want me to do. I said, but it feels right. And if it is, I submit to the process. And I said, let's go. And so from there, I just served. And I think through service, you know, opportunities were birthed and opportunities came.
How old were you at that time?
I would say I was around 25, 26, somewhere near. Yeah, 25, 26.
Your first engagement happened, you were about 25, 26.
25, 26. Yep.
Did you have kids at the time? Did you have children at the time?
Yes. I had my daughter, Jada. I had my daughter, Jada, at the time.
Wow.
And
And
it was big for me, man.
what was your first corporate gig?
My first corporate gig was, I think it was a company by the name of H.T. Hackney. It's up in Knoxville, and they helped me out when I released my book. And so the gentleman, it's a crazy story. So when I got injured, people wrote me letters. And so I had trash bags full of letters, right? And what people didn't know was I carried these letters everywhere. And so whenever I would go on my trips to the hospital or the rehab visits, I would have a duffel bag and nobody knew. And it would be letters like in duffel bags. Whenever I would get to my room, I would pull out these letters and just read them. It was very empowering. Like it was kids, it was parents. And I'll be like, man, people really care. Because when you play, everybody cheers for you. You know, everybody wants you to do well. But when your career ends, you don't know if everybody is still going to feel that way or even care about you. And I came across a letter from a young lady and her children, and it touched me. And I'll never forget when I wrote my book, I put that letter in my book. I put multiple letters, but that happened to be one of the letters. And I received a call one day, and it was from a gentleman. And he said, hey, Inky, I want to meet with you. You know, I'm the CEO of HT and Hackney. I said, great. I would love to meet with you. We're in Knoxville. He said, come to my office. I went to his office, and the gentleman was emotional, and I couldn't understand it. He was like, man, I appreciate your book. I read it. And he was very emotional. And then he said to me, the note that you put in your book, that's my only daughter. Like, that's my daughter, and that's my grandkids. And I was like, unbelievable. And he said, I want to help you put your book in every store in Knoxville. And I want you to speak to my company. And I had no expectation. And he paid me, you know, very well. It was just a guy with a great heart, man. And it came. And it blessed me and my family. I had no idea.
That is
no idea.
What an incredible story. And before that engagement, that corporate engagement, you were probably speaking to high schools and teams at the time?
Absolutely. A lot of high schools, a lot of high school football teams, corporate, not that much, but nonprofits, you know, doing a lot of nonprofit work and things of that nature. But if I had to pick two, it would be high school and nonprofits and teams.
So you're serving, you're making a difference, you're making an impact, you're reaching kids, you write this book, and then this corporate gig happens from doing the work you were doing and just making an impact and a difference.
Absolutely. That's how it came about. And it wasn't strategic at all. You know, heart was just in the right place. Intent was in the right place. And I think when your heart is in the right place, your intent is in the right place, good things follow you.
Definitely. So what was your book called, by the way, your first book?
It was Inky, an amazing story of faith and perseverance. Absolutely. It was just an autobiography. I wrote it. And to be honest with you, it was, I journal a lot. And so it was kind of like a release for me. I had been writing for a while. And when I got injured, it went up times 10. And so I took everything that I had been writing and I got with my buddy Jeff up in Knoxville, Jeff Haygood, who's an attorney, and he helped me organize it and put it in book form, and we self-published and brought it out, and it served as a blessing to a lot of people, and it did really well.
So now looking back where you were and where you are now, would you have changed a thing, or would you change a thing?
I wouldn't change it for the world, John. I'm gonna tell you why. I say this a lot, and people don't understand it sometimes. And one example I'll give you, my mother and my father. You know, my mother had me at 16, and so when she had me, my father, you know, he was at a place in his life he wasn't ready for, and so he ended up leaving. And so my mother, to be honest with you, she despised my father. And so for the longest, I was this young athlete playing 4 sports, you know, getting all type of awards. And my mother and my father could barely be in the same room. Like they hated each other. Well, my mother really hated my father. My father, he was getting to the point, he's kind of cool. And so even at Tennessee, the same thing happened. And when my injury happened, for the first time in me, my mother, and my father's life, when I was in the hospital room, in the bed, I had my eyes closed. Nobody knew what was about that. They didn't know if I was going to live, die. They didn't know what was about to happen. But what it did was it placed my mother and my father in the same room. And so my mother was lying on a cot. My father was lying on the floor with his back on the floor looking to the ceiling. And my father said to my mother, "Ruby, I'm sorry." And my mother was crying. And my father said, "You did a great job with Inky." And I ended up living, of course, but it mended something that was broken. And so when I look at my injury and my pain, you know, a lot of times when we go through things in life, we just think about us. And sure enough, we can be impacted in a great way. But I think if we just open our eyes for a moment and shift our perspective for a moment and pay attention to the people that are affected, that are close to us or that are around us, I think we will see something incredible. And what happened with me, the moment I shifted my focus and my perspective, everybody that was close to me that was shattered in the moment, they got empowered and they started to live life in a different way. And so when I look at myself, I say, man, if something like this has to happen, for something like that to happen with my mother and my father, I'll change that out 10 out of 10 times every time, because that's far more valuable to me than a game of football. Like, that's just football. I'm talking about life. I'm talking about peace. I'm talking about happiness. And so if I could change it, I wouldn't. You know, and it has nothing to do with so much of the game. It has everything to do with everyday life and trying to serve as a blessing to people, but most importantly, what I represent to people.
And now, I mean, your life and your experience and what you went through is such a blessing to so many. I mean, you're now impacting millions of people around the world. What do you think about that right now? What does your family think about that? When you go home and you think about your life, what do you like?
Oh man, it is hilarious to us, man, because I never saw it. They never saw it. You know, if we would have lined it up after I got injured and they would have had public speaking on the table, I never would have chose it, you know, because that just wasn't my personality. And so to see now today, me going around having the opportunity to serve, you know, whether it's companies, whether it's NFL, NBA, college teams, whatever the case may be, I'm so honored. You know, I'm so grateful, you know, for somebody to extend the invitation for me to come and serve their team, you know, their company. It means everything in the world to me. But most importantly, to look at the bigger picture, to understand that my pain had a purpose. You know, that's the real key for me. You know, when I look at that and can realize, man, I stayed the course. You know, every single day I control my controllables. I control my attitude. I control my perspective. And it paid off. You know, that means everything to me. And so we laugh, man, but we're honored, we're grateful, and very respectful of the things that we've been through. But most importantly, where this process has taken us.
So you never thought you'd be a speaker, but you obviously are an amazing one. How did you learn how to speak? How did you become this incredible speaker that inspires so many?
I think it came just from my personality and how I am. You know, if I had started washing cars, you know, I'd have sat down and tried to learn everything in the world about washing cars. And every single day I would have approached it with a level of reverence and respect, you know, to try to be the best that I could possibly be at it. You know, I'm not one of these guys that go out and say, oh man, I want to be better than him. I want to be better than him. No, I just want to be the best that I can be, because I understand this about life. Everybody has a separate assignment. Everybody has a separate journey. You know, some people are called to touch millions and millions. Some people are called to touch hundreds. Some people are called to touch thousands. And so whatever my assignment is, I want to do my assignment to the best of my ability and have a certain level of reverence and respect for it. And so with me, I just wanted to learn everything about being an effective communicator, because if I can be an effective communicator, I can impact and affect lives in the manner of which I want to affect and impact lives. And if I do that, my job is done. And so just from my personality, I could be flipping burgers. Then I was going to try to be the best burger flipper there was in the world. Yeah.
So there's someone listening to this right now that's facing a challenge. They may think their life is over. What would you tell someone who is going through that right
now? The thing I would share with you is just the mere fact that you're still alive, your life has purpose. But most importantly, sometimes we go through things and, you know, we look at it and we say, man, there's no way I can get through this. It brings us a certain level of pain, a certain level of uncertainty, a certain level of frustration. But the thing we must never forget is the ability to learn is a gift, even when pain is our teacher. And so we take that process, we take that pain, we bottle it up, we embrace it, and we figure out a way to use it to add value to the world and every person's life that we come in contact with. I truly believe the quicker we can shift our focus and our perspective from ourselves when we go through things to how can I use this to be a blessing to other people, the quicker we'll get through it. But the thing we must never forget, when we go through something, if we're still alive, our life has purpose. So never give up, never give in, keep pushing, keep pressing, and control the controllables.
I love it. What is your purpose right now?
My purpose right now, most importantly, is to be a great father, a great husband, and a great big brother and a great son. You know, I have an amazing wife that stood by me. You know, we met when we were in elementary and been going at it ever since childhood. Have two amazing children. You know, Jada, my daughter's 7. My son, Inky Jr., he's 6. I have 3 amazing little sisters. And I have amazing parents, my father and my mother, who I'm grateful they brought me into this world, even though we had some turbulence early on. But every single day, first and foremost, you know, doing my job in my household, you know, and then going out and doing my job in the world. Because I firmly believe the worst thing that I can be, the worst thing that, you know, a person out in the world can be is a public success, but behind closed doors, they're a private failure. And so first and foremost, I want to be a priest, a provider, and a protector in my own home, and then go out and serve the world in the manner of which I'm capable of serving it.
So you've accomplished so much already. What are you excited about going forward? Like, what are you looking forward to?
Man, just growth. You know, I'm one of these guys, you know, I love to hang around people that are older than me, people that are wiser than me, people that have, you know, more life experiences than me. Like you, for example, I call on you a lot. I text you a lot. I ask you a lot of questions because you're at a different phase in life than I am. You have more experiences. And so you can speak to something in a manner of which I probably can't even see it, right? Or even think about it. And so I'm looking forward to just growing, you know, getting more experiences out of life, but most importantly, living life, you know, appreciating every moment. I'm looking forward to my kids getting older. I'm looking forward to more companies, more organizations, more teams, serving them and growing as a communicator. Most importantly, I'm looking forward to growing old with my wife, you know, and just looking back over the experiences of life and learning, you know, and just figuring out a way to just better serve and add value to the world.
Well, that time we were in Iowa together, and I heard you were there. We never met before, and I was speaking at another event. You were speaking at a different event. We were at the same hotel. I saw you on Twitter that you were there. I'm like, I gotta text him. So I reached out to you, and we got together. It was it was a great moment for me as well because, you know, I'm a huge fan of your work. I may be older, but I learned a lot from you.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, when I started speaking Inky, I was the young guy. I was in my early 30s. You know, now I'm becoming the old guy. So, so you speak to a lot of professional athletes. You know, I do as well. You know, you get to impact their lives. You know, why do you think your message though connects so much with them?
I think because I played pretty much the game that they played, as you were an athlete as well. And so it's certain things that we just know about the game, you know, and we can connect on that level. But most importantly, I think also, you know, I serve as a reminder. You know, my career ended and I was in the same position that a lot of these guys were in. And I was slotted to make it to the NFL and something happened out of my control. And so a lot of times you and I both know this just in life in general. You know, you can get to going and doing something really well and you do it so much that you tend to take it for granted. You know, you just show up and it is what it is. You get compensated well for it. You do it. You've been in the system for so long that you start to complain about things that you shouldn't complain about. And so sometimes when I show up and just looking at me, you know, they'll see, man, this guy has a paralyzed right arm and hand. They can see the atrophy, the muscle atrophy on my body. And so when I speak about this game that they're playing, my hope is that they'll look at it, take something away from the message and say, you know what, man, I need to approach this thing in a way to where I'm giving it my all each and every day and not taking it for granted.
Awesome. So if you had to pick one word that would define your life, I call it a life word, right? What would that word be, your life word?
Mm-hmm. I would say process. And the reason I would use process is I believe that's what life is. You know, life is a process to be lived, to be enjoyed, you know, to be experienced. And when we look at life, the different chapters, the different phases, the different stages, it's all the process that's shaping and molding us into becoming the best possible human beings that we're capable of becoming.
Awesome. Well, last question, Inky. So I love to ask people their hero, their hardship, their highlight. I really believe we know your hardship you faced, right? Who's one of your heroes? And tell us just about a highlight. When you think of one of the great moments of your life, what would that highlight be? So hero and then a highlight.
My hero would be my grandmother. We grew up in her house, that 2-bedroom home with 14 people. And unfortunately, she never had a chance to make it to one of my games because she had a hip condition. And so she could barely walk. And she would always have the paper, you know, the newspaper whenever I made it into the paper, you know, in Atlanta. But just her spirit and the way she lived her life and the way she treated people. You know, she would always tell me Inky. She called me Inky. Everybody called me Inky. She called me Inky. And she would always say to me, you know, Inky, the best thing you can do in life is treat people right. And so, you know, she's my hero. My highlight would be in the hospital when I got injured. I was down for a moment, and my coach showed up that signed me up to play football when I was 7 years old. And I'll never forget, he was on the edge of the bedside, and he was on my mother's shoulder, and he was crying. And I had some more people from my childhood there, and I apologized to him. I said, you know, man, I'm really sorry. And they were like, sorry for what? I said that I can't make it to the NFL, and I can't pay you guys back. And they laughed. And I was like, why are you guys laughing? They said, man, we didn't do what we did for you to make it to something called the NFL. We don't even care about the NFL like that. They said, we invested in you. We did what we did for you. So one day you can become a great citizen and contribute back to the world. And one day you can pay it forward. And it was like a sense of relief. You know, it was like my shoulders just dropped, you know, but most importantly, it made me realize that, man, you do what you do because it's the right thing to do. You don't do what you do because you think you can get a return or somebody can do something for you.
Yeah. Well, Inky, you've become a great citizen of the world. You're making a huge impact. You're one of my heroes. Keep making a difference. Keep changing the world. And just, you know, thank you for sharing your message with people on Positive University. I really appreciate it. I love you, man. I love your story. I love who you are.
Man, love you, brother. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be on. I greatly appreciate what you do in your heart. Thank you.
All right. Keep changing the world.